And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. Jeff DeForest, along with Mike Lubie. I'm happy to be with you here on NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV, the various other platforms that are distributing and carrying this program for you. We talked yesterday, Lubie, and we touched on this on a couple of programs that we do about the possibility, what would ever have matched the stench that was hovering over Las Vegas as
The
the
result.
Raiders were getting set to host the Chargers without Justin Herbert. And with Brandon Staley, I mean, he's not even on the ropes.
No, he's done.
This guy is standing on the San Andreas fault right now, and has been probably all season long. The Chargers came into that ball game at 5-8. Raiders, surprisingly, were also 5-8 in spite of bombing out with the acquisition before the season of Jimmy Garoppolo. He wasn't doing very well, and then he gets hurt. And then he brought in this Aiden O'Connell, who doesn't he sound like some Irish miler that, here's Eamon Coughlin and Aiden O'Connell is going to be his coach. I don't know. I mean, sounds like a guy to be riding jumper horses over in Ireland somewhere. Don't know that, he's going to make you forget about the snake Kenny Stabler. And they had just put up a big, fat, round number the previous week. I think this was the glaring statistic that came out of that game. And that was the ultimate round number, 0.
Yep.
As in 0.0, Mr. Blutarski. They had put up 0 against a really kind of hapless and lifeless Minnesota Vikings team, also dealing with backup quarterback issues after Kirk Cousins all of a sudden is being hailed as if he was a second coming of Johnny Unitas.
I love it.
Because everybody's in the same stinking boat, speaking of stench, Lubie. And we were trying to figure out, conjure up, some kind of illustration, verbal illustration anyway, as to what could cause a stench like that besides the Raiders matchup against the Chargers. I thought about if some diabolical soul had figured out a way, and there's always somebody trying to beat the system out in Las Vegas, had figured out a way to somehow pump raw sewage through the Bellagio fountains. That might become an aroma that would be somewhat offensive. It certainly wouldn't have seemed like it was coming out of Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, which is right there by the fountains on the corner. And you're thinking that would have blown out the people of Las Vegas on the Strip for sure. There was the time, too, and it reminded me of a story when I was out there covering we were at the National Handicapping Championship. My buddies and I, one of my friends had an entry in the National Handicapping Championship. That's for thoroughbred racing. So one of the original contests a long, long time ago, established about 25, 30 years. And big money on the line. It's a great affair. They really do a good job by conducting it. Very excited to be there. So we fly in on a Thursday night. The contest got underway on Friday. And I was doing a radio show. You were producing the show, Lubie, at the time.
I was, yes, sir.
And we didn't get in there till about 3 in the morning, Eastern time, and had to go on the air at 6. So I noticed when I checked into my room that there was a lot of water in the bathroom. And I thought, oh, geez, something's got to be leaking in here. So I called the maintenance custodial department through the bell desk. They sent some guys up, and they said, yeah, something's up here. We'll look into it. And it turned out, as we were about to start the show, they finally came up with the discovery of what was wrong. They'd been doing some work around the room there. And then they went upstairs, and they found literally a dead body in the bathtub of the room upstairs. Now, this wasn't one of those Frankie Pentangeli things where he slit his wrist there because he knew that it was over for him anyway. It was the only noble thing to do. I guess some guy was taking a bath in the room above me at the Flamingo Hotel, had a heart attack, some kind of medical issue, checked out, and the water was still running in the bathtub. Now that I wasn't as impacted by it. I mean, naturally, I wasn't anxious to do a show while standing in a puddle of water out of my hotel room in Las Vegas after getting a half an hour of sleep. But the stench when those guys had to walk into that room, I mean, I don't know, would it have been negated, refuted by, and kind of dissipated by the fact the guy was underwater, the stench of the dead body? But that would be reflective of the kind of thing we were anticipating last night between the Raiders and the Chargers, and then it turned out to be an electrifying affair, at least as far as anybody that was backing the Raiders were concerned in that game. 42-point first half. 42 points in the first half, 6 touchdowns. They had 8 different guys scored touchdowns in those games. They also had Jacoby Myers not only caught a touchdown pass on a sensational play. I mean, this was a circus catch, Libby. Did you see that one? Where he is diving into the end zone?
That game was such a disaster. I didn't
Great
see it.
play.
Second.
And then he throws for a touchdown pass. As the Raiders, Antonio Pierce would not let up one bit. He was so incensed that that zero was posted the week before. He used it instead as incentive to go out there and pull a Gino Auriemma and just keep his starters in the game, keep calling pass plays, using trick plays, everything they could do. And they poured it on to the tune of 9 touchdowns in a game against the Chargers. Did you happen to see Brandon Staley's press conference or any clips from it?
God. Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. I mean, look, it wouldn't be the easiest thing to do. You're a head coach in the National Football League, which, look, that whole profession is laced with ineptitude, at least in the minds of media and fans. You constantly are seeing things that you're stunned by, as evidenced by your favorite coach here in South Florida, where we originate from, Mike McDaniel. And he's such a genius that he's figured out new and innovative ways to lose games,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? Just dig up Vince Lombardi, let him hand the ball off to Horning and Taylor, and get the game over with. Refuses to do that, and then it gets overwhelmingly creative in spots where he should be conservative, and goes conservative in places where it's just totally sabotaging any chance they have of staving off what was a remarkable comeback last week by Tennessee. It drives you crazy. Now Staley. He's been egregious so many times where you've just and you wonder, is he singularly responsible? Is he to Justin Herbert what Adam Gase was to Ryan Tannehill? Is it possible?
I think he's what Brian Flores was to Tua Tagovailoa.
Yep.
He's just really bad at coaching, and he's probably a good defensive coach. Okay, so go do that. The fact it's so weird that these NFL teams. They have no loyalty to players, but coaches, they'll give them like 3-4 years. They have all the money in the world. Like, why? And I get it. You can't just keep recycling. I understand, but sometimes the guy is like Brandon Staley's not the guy. Like, it's pretty fucking.
Doesn't look good. I mean, the only stench that really was developed there and perceived by anybody as an aroma that was distasteful was the smell of the burning paper of Staley's contract. But that being said, Lubie, are you a fan? I mean, I guess, reporter has to ask the question at these press conferences. And look, the guy's not going to say anything. He just took a bludgeoning. He took a beating. He's bleeding from every pore. Couldn't be any more depressed. He looked on the sideline like he was resigned to the idea that, wow, the way this is going, it's not going to make much of a case. Even if Barry Scheck was my attorney, I don't think I would be able to convince the owner that I should stick around any longer. And what's the guy's name? Is it Stan Kroenke?
Yes.
Or he owns the Rams. No.
Oh, that's the Rams.
Yeah, he allows them to play at the stadium there. A long time ago, Gene Klein, would he have put up with this with the Chargers when they were in San Diego? He let go of Marty Schottenheimer after the guy won 14 games the year before.
Dean Spanos, I think, was the owner then. It's Dean. He sucks. He's one of the shitty owners. It's Dean Spanos.
My God. I mean, is he unaware of what's happening with that team? They looked horrendous in this game last night. 5 turnovers. They still got 21 on the board. Now they're playing with a backup quarterback, this guy, Easton Stick. The Sticker, as he was known at North Dakota State. Not exactly a ringing endorsement for going ahead and taking the 3 points that you were getting with the Chargers last night. Anyway, that one was a pleasure to watch. But, yeah, Staley looked like Sean Penn in that movie with Susan Sarandon when, she's trying to somehow redeem his soul before he's about to meet a very, ugly and untimely death for the outrageous criminal activity he was guilty of. And, trying to find some kind of salvation in the end there. But he had that look on his face the entire ball game, Brandon Staley, and that doesn't look good for him. I don't know that fans always like to immediately react and say, "Hey, they got to fire the coach." This guy's had enough of a chance there that it appears like he's being detrimental to any possibility that Justin Herbert will evolve into what people think he already is, which is one of the elite quarterbacks in the National Football League. Seen a lot of action in the transfer portal. We had a friend of ours tell us that the transfer portal is just a straight-up bidding war, that it's like going down a Rodeo Drive and trying to buy Gucci bags, that, the highest bidder is going to get them if there's a limited supply. All of these quarterbacks, how does this strike you, Lubie? All of these starting quarterbacks are defecting and going elsewhere. Is that just straight-up cash and carry?
Well,
That
it's a
they're all
combination
doing
of
it strictly for the money. I mean, some of these guys have been in school for 11 years. How long has that ukulele kid been in Oregon State?
I think 4 years. I think this
Okay,
will be his fifth year. I
he
think
was at Clemson for 7 years before
Clemson for
that.
3 years, Oregon State for 1 year. A lot one when your coach leaves, and it's funny to me that like people will say, "Well, you commit to the school." No, you don't play for the fucking school. You play for the coach and their staff. If the
Well, now
coach
you
leaves,
play for the money. That would be it.
well, but a lot of the time, if a coach leaves, kids will want to leave. That's one. Two, if you're on a program and you think you can get more money somewhere else, you'll leave. Three, if you're on a program that's not helping you and you really want to, like Riley Leonard with Duke, that was both his coach left and also Notre Dame is a much more high profile program than Duke. So, like, if you want to get your name out there and try and make NFL waves, you'll transfer. But yes, the money on all three of those, the money is a major caveat to all of those things.
It's funny though when the NCAA actually had power and was authoritative over regulating college football, and for years they just wanted to have you buy into this concept that what was as archaic as anything you could ever imagine, that this was an amateur sport. And if they had just capitulated maybe to early concessions that were being sought by players,
What
would they
else?
be on a path to extinction now with a business model that looks like it came out of the mind of Sam Bankman Fried? I mean, how can this be good for the game
Oh no,
where everybody's transferring for the money, and it seriously is just an absolute horse auction that you're having? They
yes.
may as well go to Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah, we're here for the Keeneland sales. I tell you what, the Sheik's, he's got an
Well, the problem
attache
is
full of
that
cash.
people focus on the money. People focus on the negatives for the programs. To me, it's actually major issues. Most of these kids don't get transferred. There's like 1,500 kids in the transfer portal. Not all kids have homes. That the major issue isn't the kids that transfer. Actually, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Teams find a way, they figure it out, whatever. It's the kids that get really bad advice, put their name in the transfer portal. So now they're old school, find someone else, and they don't know that they have a home somewhere else. So they actually kids who had scholarships and had homes now won't have a scholarship and won't have a home, and that's a major issue. That's the to me not the problem isn't all the kids transferring. College football made that bed. It is a business, fine. It's the kids that think they have a place to go and now don't and get fucked. And that to me, that's a disaster for these kids. And I actually feel for these kids. And that's the thing I wonder if they can get better sources of information. Because right
yeah.
now there's not. Right now, there's just a bunch of people saying, "Yeah, you need to go. Look at this guy." It's like, dude, you were the third string. Like, they're not going to pay you $1 million when you were the third string. Like, what are you doing?
It is interesting though, because you can't imagine that this isn't somehow going to have some residual negative effects
Oh yeah,
later on down the road. Although I mean, that there's probably enough money available with these television contracts and all of the marketing that's available for them, like the Yankees have for years. Just buy yourself out of any situation and mistake. There's that much money involved in all of these things that are happening, including the fusion of and the extinction of various conferences. Where Pac-12 went out of business. Can you imagine? Holy Dick Enberg, what are we talking about here?
yep.
Used to love it, right? UCLA be on the road, and over the weekend they take on Oregon State, and there was the Wizard coaching, and you're thinking this is a tremendous conference. Back when it was the Pac-8,
Okay,
Lubie, Pac-12, they played the best football. Most people feel of any conference in
this
college
year,
football in the U.S.
this
Where
year,
else
yeah,
do they play college football? The Ukraine? I don't think so. But
that's
yeah,
correct.
you get the idea. I mean, I'm cheerleading here and
No, Wizards
waving the
is
pom
scary.
poms
Play a
for
lot.
the
Like I know.
Pac-12.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were good this year. Let's hope that Washington maybe pulls a surprise there. That's a one team that nobody is talking about as a possibility to win this thing. Washington and Texas. That winner's being completely dismissed, is it not, Luby? In the handicapping, at least you're hearing very little about the possibilities of those two teams winning the national championship, despite the fact that one of them is going to be in the final game. So you have a guarantee to get a shot at it. I don't know. Would it be worth putting a few bucks on that? We'll see. Nobody transferring out of those games, huh? You don't see
Those
too
are
many
the
defections
few
there.
games where kids don't transfer. I mean, well, actually, Texas, they're back. Even those games, backups are like, because that's the problem. The transfer portal opens now, the signing days now, and a lot of schools want to act now. So if you are thinking of transferring, you really can't wait. The Texas guy who started two to three games this year and is their backup in a playoff game where Ewers is very rough and tumble. He's leaving. He already, and once you enter the transfer portal, you're done. You can't still play in a game for the team when you're in the transfer portal. So yeah, even the playoff teams are actually getting hit a little bit.
Jalen Milroe coming back, by the way, to Alabama because you can't leave Alabama.
No,
Like I said, I mean, one of the least heard terms you'll ever catch an announcer saying is the Alabama transfer. I did, see one, but rarely. Those contracts are as ironclad as anything that you could ever sign your name to. Standard principles and clauses, right? Did you read the fine print on that, Lubie? I mean, this is why, and you were talking about this earlier. I mean, you had to bite your tongue whenever you were in front of management. Especially in the broadcasting business, because even though you wanted to say, "Hey, you know what? Fuck you, you asshole! I'm out of here." Then when you got to your car, you realized I don't have another job, and that was always a startling realization. I mean, it's good if you can immediately find one, but that's not always the case, like you're saying for some of these college kids. My favorite bowl, by the way, they don't call it that anymore, but it was a brilliant concept, the Humanitarian Bowl, as we start out the bowl season. And you're saying, why is that, DeForest? And the reason is, and you know this, Libby, the reason is because any bookmaker that had even a semblance of a soul would refund your money if you lost the Humanitarian Bowl. What other gesture could he possibly make? Could he take your money and put you in a just compromised financial position maybe for the rest of your life? And do it in good faith while taking your money on the Humanitarian Bowl? No, it's contrary to the concept. But I think it's something else now. It's got some bizarre food attachment, I believe.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's named after a potato chip or something. I'm not sure. A French toast. I don't know what bowl it is, but it used to be the Humanitarian Bowl, and without that, I don't think we're in there with much of a shot. All right, you guys have a great weekend, a week before Christmas. Hope everybody's in the holiday spirit here. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the Morning Briefing, a Degenerate Friday edition. We had some divide among our handicappers on the UCLA-Boise State game, so that may be one to stay out of because we had a couple of guys that we respect picking that game. One was insisting that the 4 points look very generous with Boise State because UCLA is not going to give a shit.
State. One game that they both agreed on was the New Mexico State and Fresno State game. And they did both, I think, New Mexico State.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We don't want to mislead anybody here because the ball season, tread lightly, my friends, unless you have the good information about who's playing, who's not playing. That's going to be very critical. But the Humanitarian Ball being gone, I don't know. I may be out of this one. This ball season. I'm only hoping a guy who's a Betzai Book, Lubie, is as bad in the ball season as he's been in the past. That he is the most misinformed individual, like all bookies. I'm hoping that he is relying on what he thinks to be the truth, when in reality, you don't know who's going to be playing in half of these games. All right, Lubie, you have a great weekend. And everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. That's today's edition of the Morning Briefing. We'll see you next time here on NoFilter.net.